we'll go from there. So I haven't figured out if I want to do this on their website, knocking them up simultaneously. Okay, so this shows the AP scaling, but since this is the first champion that I'm actually looking into, I'm gonna go into the practice tool. And no, honestly, I think this should give better. Yeah, this shows base stats and everything. I could go and I can even edit these. Yeah, that's a lot more than I was willing to look into. But no. Either way, for anybody that's tuning in on the YouTube, I am going to be doing these live on Twitch, and for anybody that's watching these live on Twitch, I will have these on my YouTube channel. It's all under the same name, and links will be on the channel headers. On Twitch, it should just be clickable. On YouTube, I need to figure it out a little bit more, but I mean, same name if you want to look it up or find it. But for today, this is going to be champion numero uno on the list, Senor Alistar. His nickname, where is it? I know I just saw it. It said Alistar the Minataur. Minataur. I've heard it multiple different ways. Wonder if it'll. Yeah, it just says Alistar the Minataur. From what I've seen more, he's a tankier unit. Usually plays support and shit like that, but let's see. His base health scales from 685 to 2725. Mana goes from 350 to 1030. Health and mana regen both go from 8.5 to around the 22 range. Armor goes from 47 to 126. Attack damage goes from 62 to 125. MR goes from 32 to 65, or to 66.85. Crit damage is base 175%. Move speed is 330. Also, he's actually really slow. Attack range is 125. Now, I'm reading most of these off just to get like a general idea, but as we go through more of these, I'll actually start to see like, oh, that's really low, or that's this, or that's that. Like, for example, he's got 333 move speed. I feel like he's already just a relatively slow champion. Base attack speed is 0.625. His attack windup is 30%. I actually didn't know there. I knew that there was different windups for different champions, but it makes sense. I just never really thought about seeing the number on paper. What's going on, Woody? How you be today? Bonus attack speed scaling goes from 0 to 36%. And gameplay radius, the unit radius, I didn't know this was a thing either. Pathing radius, I'm guessing that's how beefy he is as far as like stepping on Caitlyn traps and stuff like that. Selection radius 145, I'm guessing that's the hitbox. Oh, it shows, okay. Unit's gameplay radius is a value that most closely resembles the concept of a hitbox. Okay, so that's the hitbox, but selection radius is how close the mouse cursor has to be to the center of their model in order to click them. So probably like for heal, exhaust, anything like that. Might have to one-trick pony Swain. Swain into Fury. I heard that Swain's supposed to be really strong with some of the new items right now. Pathing radius. Unit's pathing radius is the size of their model for unit collision and pathfinding. Like I said, like any form of traps, Caitlyn, Jhin, stuff like that. Then it also has the nerf stats for ARAM, Blitz, One for All, Earth. It's really interesting. For right now, I'm only worried about Rift stats, but this is the juicy part. Now we get to look at the kit a little bit more. So this is okay, so you've got Pulverize, Headbutt, Trample, and then Unbreakable Will. Does it show his passive? Am I tripping? Oh, this is the passive. Okay. So Alistar's passive is Triumphant Roar. Innate. Alistar generates a stack of Triumph for each enemy champion he stuns or displaces with his abilities, and each time a nearby enemy minion or non-epic monster dies. He generates 7 stacks if a nearby enemy champion or epic monster dies. At 7 stacks, Alistar consumes them all to heal himself for 5% of his maximum health and nearby allied champions for 7% of his maximum health. Triumphant Roar can only occur once every few seconds, though Alistar may still generate stacks before then. So, if a nearby enemy champion or epic monster dies, he automatically cashes in. 5% of his health goes to him, and then 7% of his maximum health heals everybody that's around him. Nearby allied champions, so it's all of them. It's not just the closest one or anybody. There's no form of tether or anything like that. Lethality Yorick mid. That sounds like a lot of fun. And alright, Toast, I'll see you in a second. I'll just be reading through this and then it'll be into the games. His Q is Pulverize. And obviously, the more health he gets, the more his passive would obviously affect everybody else because his maximum health would go up. But either way, his Q is Pulverize. Alistar smashes the ground, dealing magic damage to nearby enemies, stunning and knocking them up simultaneously for 1 second. The cost scales from 50 to 70 mana, cooldown scales from 14 to 10 seconds, and it has a cast time of 0.25. Oh, okay. So this also shows that there's different cast times for standard and the WQ combo. So QWE, Headbutt is the other ability that usually gets tethered or tied to this one. You'll W in and Q instantly. So if Alistar W's somebody, he sends them flying back. But if he WQs, he'll knock them up in place because, I mean, this is a knock-up. But if you want to jump to them and knock them up without sending them flying backwards, then this would be the combo. So it's saying that there's a 0.25 cast for Q, but whenever you W somebody, then the cast time is only 0.15 of a second. It's kind of interesting. I didn't realize that there was a whole 1/10 of a second taken off whenever it's in a WQ combo, because it feels like it's really rough to hit and it's kind of difficult to get, but One Trick Pony Swain is the move. Honestly, that one that burns the ground, whatever that item is, I remember it's supposed to be stupid busted on him right now. But let's see what the headbutt. Okay, so for Q, the other thing to keep in mind is based off of level, it has anywhere from 60 to 220 magic damage and an 80% AP scaling. His W is Headbutt. Alistar dashes to the target enemy's location. If they're within 400 units upon arrival, he deals them magic damage and knocks them back 700 units over 0.5 seconds while also stunning them for 0.75 seconds. So he knocks them across for half a second, and then once they land, they're still stunned for a quarter of a second. And that one has a 55 to 275 magic damage leveling, and then a 100% AP scaling. Trample. Alistar tramples the ground around him every 0.5 seconds over 5 seconds, becoming ghosted and dealing... See, this is why I'm glad that I'm reading these kits. I did not know he becomes ghosted whenever he does this. Alistar tramples the ground around him for 0.5 seconds over 5 seconds, becoming ghosted and dealing magic damage to nearby enemies. Each time this damages at least one champion, he generates a stack of trample that lasts for the remaining duration, stacking up to 5 times. At 5 stacks, Alistar's next basic attack against the champion within 6 seconds is empowered to deal 20 to 275 based on level bonus magic damage and stun the target for 1 second. This will end trample prematurely. Okay, but he gets the stun. And this is something else that is really interesting. I hadn't been looking at some of these, and now that I'm starting to read into them, I'm realizing that there's a lot more depth to some of these, because I thought that anything that got 5 stacks got stunned. Kind of like how Nunu throws out his little snowballs, and then whenever it ends, everything in the radius gets rooted. But that's not the case. In this case, it's saying that you generate stacks every 0.5 seconds to everybody around you, and then whenever somebody hits 5 stacks of it, you auto them to deal bonus damage and stun. So cost on that one is 50 to 70 mana. Cooldown goes from 12 to 10 seconds. There's no cast time, and it's got an effect radius of 350 units. So just to give a little bit of context for that, the effect radius for his Q is 375 units. The target range for his W is 650 units, and the AoE of Trample is 350 units. That one does anywhere from 8 to 20 damage, magic damage per tick. Oh, so every 0.5 seconds it does 8 to 20 magic damage, depending on level, with a 7% AP scaling. That's really interesting. Now his ult, I know, just turns into absolute like beef lord, kind of like most tanks do. But his active, well, it says active on all of these, so I'm guessing for the other abilities it'll say active and passive, kind of like how, what would you say? Oh, there's a lot of champions that have like little stuff hidden into their kits that a certain ability will have a passive that just stays open all the time, kind of like how Vayne has her silver bolts and stuff like that. It's not an active effect, it's just a passive that stays on all the time and always is doing its thing. But for his ult, Unbreakable Will, it costs 100 mana, no scaling, no bullshit. It goes from 120 seconds down to 80 seconds, and it has a quarter second cast time. I thought this one was instant, so that's cool to know. Alistar cleanses himself of all crowd control. For the next 7 seconds, he reduces incoming damage taken. So it's just a full cleanse, and then based off of level, rank 1 is 55%, rank 2 is 65%, and rank 3 is 75% damage mitigation from all sources, I'm assuming. It doesn't say armor, MR, anything like that. It just says flat 55 to 75% damage reduction. And I'd say there's the goat, but he's not a goat, he's a bull. There, it's got a whole bunch of patch history, trivia. I don't know if I'm going to get into the trivia for right now. I just wanted to look at the stats, get a little bit of a read on some of the other stuff, but yeah, you know what? Trivia. Alistar is voiced by Harlan Hogan. Alistar is an alternative form of Alistar, the anglicized form of Scottish Gaelic Alasdair, ultimately from ancient Greek, right, whatever that meaning defender from Pi roots halik, to ward off, to defend, and honor? I really don't understand, I'm not sure. Man. During alpha test he was simply called Minataur. Alistar was deemed overpowered, obnoxious in the ultra rapid fire game mode available in April 2014 Earth, and was ultimately disabled in non-custom games. Alistar's Series 1 Eternals make the following references. By the horns reference the phrase take the bull by the horns. Indomitable is a pun on the words indomitable and bull, and matador is another term for bullfighter. That's some interesting little trivia. I actually think that's something that I'm going to read on these, especially if they're going to have it there just for free. But amazing tank. One of my homies played it as a jungle one time and somehow just was doing some crazy work with it. But well, that's going to be Alistar. And like I said, anybody that's going to be watching this on YouTube, I'm going to be doing these live at the beginning of all of my streams starting today, and just trying to learn some more of the champions. And then for anybody that's in here at the top of my Twitch, There is a YouTube link if anybody wants to go and look at these once they start rolling out. It'll take a couple days for them to go. They won't be instant uploads, but with that, it's on to the games and into the rest of it. Let's go.